Oh my God, what are you guys doing here? I'm just doing my backbending practice right now. Whew, I just love backbends. Oh my God, they just feel so enlivening. Hey guys, my name is Yogi Aaron, and today we're going to talk about a beginner's approach to backbends. You know, so many people, especially beginner students, but even people who have been practicing for 25 years. I just had a woman in my yoga teacher training who's been doing yoga for 25 years, and she just hates backbends. Well, at least that was until she met me. And I actually believe that, or think, that a lot of people don't like backbends because when they go back into them, they don't feel stable. And a lot of yoga teachers' approach to getting into backbends, I hate to say it, it's just wrong. And the reason why is because a lot of yoga teachers approach backbending through trying to open up the front body. They stretch the quads, they stretch the stomach, they stretch the chest. They're doing these heart openers. But that's not what actually needs to happen. That doesn't engender stability. Stability comes from actually starting to work on the muscles that are shortening and make sure that they're shortening properly, or more specifically, contracting properly. Contracting and contracting on demand. I'll tell you that every time I went into backbends before, I used to hate them as well. I hated backbends because I never felt stable. And why didn't I feel stable? Because I kept stretching. There's so much research out there that is now showing us that stretching actually debilitates muscle function. Hello, it actually kind of makes sense when you think about it. A muscle's job is actually to shorten or contract and contract on demand. And the muscle needs to contract in order to stabilize joints, to be able to move bones, and to be able to move the body in different ranges of motion. That pose that I was just doing when you guys just showed up, this back bend, I never could to do that before. And now I can do it with so much ease because my back muscles are properly prepared and trained to be able to not only shorten properly, but more importantly, stabilize my body. What we want to do is be able to improve muscle function. So I'm going to just give you like 3 very simple backbending kind of quote unquote muscle activation practices that you guys can do at home and be able to start utilizing. And I would actually sometimes argue that doing these practices that I'm going to show you today are some of the most important and most valuable that you'll ever learn in your life. And the reason why is this, that our back muscles not only hold our spine in place, but they also stop gravity from pulling us forward. Everything that we're doing in life is constantly pulling us forward. We pick up a book, we read the book. What do? We pull forward. You know, by the way, while I've got my book in my hand, this is Stop Stretching, a new yogic approach to master your body and live pain-free. My goal in this book is to give you practices so that you can start to live a more pain-free life, available on Amazon. So if you haven't got it yet, make sure you get it. But coming back to what the erector muscles are doing is they're actually pulling us back up. They're helping to defy basically gravity and keep our spine erect. And the spine needs to be erect because if it starts to come forward, we come into this constant habitual forward flexion. A couple of things are happening. Number one, these muscles here start to become static and don't work. So all of our trunk flexor muscles stop working, and then our back muscles start working or stabilizing the spine in a flexed state. And that's actually a recipe for disaster. Remember your grandparents, you probably, when you went and hugged them, they kind of came over to you hunched. And when you put your hand on their back, you could feel like their back was like a piece of board or like a wall. And that's what happens to muscles when they don't get used properly. So we want to start to get those muscles moving. And I will tell you that I firmly believe that doing backbend practices, and now when I say backbend practices, I'm not talking about trying to reach your hands back as far as you can go. I'm talking about doing these very simple muscle activation practices are the secret to living a youthful and young life. And that's not being glib. If you look at a lot of older people who look old, you'll always see them walking around through life like this, instead of walking around through life like this. So part attitude, but also definitely part muscle function. We want to keep those muscles strong. One of my very favorite simple yoga practices is a practice called chair pose. And that's where we're going to start today. Chair pose is one of these poses that you often see in yoga classes, but it's not taught, as far as I'm concerned, very well. And the reason why it's not taught well is because a lot of teachers start to cue it in a way where they're taking the back bend part of chair out of the pose. And you hear this through cueing such as tuck the tailbone, flatten the back, that sort of thing. I'm actually going to cue it a little bit differently because what we want to do is two things. One, we do want to get those lower back muscles contracting, so we want to keep that lordotic curve in the lumbar spine. That's a very healthy thing to encourage. The lumbar spine should have a bit of a C curve there. If you look at any kind of skeleton, you will see, this is probably not the best example because he's been kind of warped a little bit, but if you look at my skelly here, you can see that there's a bit of a C curve here in the lumbar spine. And by the way, a lot of people who are dealing with neck pain are dealing with neck pain because of this C curve that is non-existent in the lumbar spine. So doing chair and other back bending practices is a great way to start putting that extension back into the lumbar spine, but also doing the muscle activations helps those muscles to start contracting and contracting on demand. So you want to bring the feet about hip distance apart. And what we're going to do first is just come and sit back. Now, you don't have to sit back far, okay? I know that this is another thing that a lot of yoga teachers cue is like, sit down, sit down, sit down. It doesn't really matter how far you sit. Just sitting a little bit is going to start to create this forward flexion, if you will, where we have an opportunity to get stable in this posture and then start to create the back bend here. It's a lot different if you're standing up straight and kind of coming back. You don't have the same effect. So putting a little bit of flexion in the hips helps to create more opportunity for us to come into a back bend or extension in the lumbar spine. So first of all, just come and sit back. It doesn't have to be very far. I do like to pull the leg bones back because sometimes there's a tendency for the leg bones to come forward. And then what you're going to do is just simply bring the arms up. Okay, now, if you have any shoulder impingements, simply bring the arms a little bit wider. That's completely fine. Now lift the chest. Let the butt stick out just a little bit here. And then what I want you to do is start to lift the chest up and then bring the arm bones back. And you're going to feel all the muscles in your lumbar spine and upper spine starting to engage. If you don't believe me, bring your hands there and you can feel them starting to pop out. Let's come up and stand up. Let's do this a little bit more dynamically now. You know the movement. If you haven't got it yet, go back, rewind. That's the great thing about videos is you can rewind and go back and watch it again. But if you've got it, let's do it 5 more times. So you're going to inhale, bend the knees, bring the arms up. Now lift up through the chest, lift up through the manubrium. Bring the arm bones back just a little bit more. Pull the leg bones back just a little bit. And then again, lift up through the chest, exhale, bring the arms down, and just pause there for a moment. Take a deep breath in, and exhale out. Bend the knees. Come and sit back. Bring the arm bones back, lift up through the chest. Pull the leg bones back a little bit more. Very nice. Bring the arm bones back again, sit back a little bit more. Exhale, bring the arms down. Inhale, bend the knees, bring the arms up. Very nice, guys. Sit back just a little bit more and a little bit more, but then lift the chest in opposition. Sit back, exhale, bring the arms down. I'm going to give you a couple more cues here. Bend the knees, bring the arms up. Sit back into the heels. Now lift your toes up. Feel as if the shin bones are lifting into the knees. Lift up at the pubic bone. Squeeze the sides of the belly in, and then take the arm bones back. Turn the corners of your mouth upwards. And exhale, come on back. Let's do it again. Bend the knees. Bring the arms up. Good. Again, if you have any kind of shoulder problems, bring the arms out. If that doesn't work, bring the arms out to the sides. That's also fine too. Inhale, come and stand up. And exhale, bring the arms down. Feel the energy pumping through your body. It's so cool. Let's do it again. Bend the knees. Bring the arms up. This is the last one. Let's go for broke now. Come into the backs of your heels. Can you sit back a little bit more, stick your butt out a little bit more, but then lift the chest in opposition. Feel like you're pressing your back against a wall behind you, and you're pressing your arms to that wall. Inhale deeply, and then exhale, bring the arms down. Inhale deeply, exhale deeply. All right, so let's come on down to the floor now. So one of my most favorite poses, and earlier I was saying that when you do back bends, if you work the muscles of the back, it's one of the secrets to staying young in the body, okay? And one of the major muscles is called the longissimus. And the longissimus is really important muscle because it's a global stabilizer of the whole spine. And when working properly, it stabilizes the spine, is able to start again lifting you up, if you will, or pulling you out of the gravitational pull forward. So we really want to make sure that the longissimus is working and contracting properly. This pose I'm going to show you is a very simple back bend. In some ways it's simple, but you also work very hard. And is one of the poses, actually, I tell my yoga teachers, you must include this pose in every single yoga class that you teach because of the positive effects of it. So some teachers teach this pose and they don't really hold it long enough. Again, the key to any kind of muscle activation practice is to do it for 6 seconds and do it 6 times. So let's come and do this pose. It's called Superman pose or Shalabhasana. You'll find almost in every video I teach, we always do some form of Shalabhasana. You're going to bring your arms down to the sides. Now again, if you want to, let's start off by bringing the hands on the lower back because I want you to feel this muscle. You're going to feel it pop out really quickly. You're just simply going to lift the legs and lift the chest. Now you don't have to lift very far, okay? Of course, towards the end or the 6th time, I'm going to say lift up as much as you can. But just to start off, lift up just a little bit and then come on down. And then do it again. Lift up a bit and just hold it there for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and come on down. And then come on up again and hold for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and come on down. This time, see if you can lift the legs up a little bit higher. Okay, maybe come out of the chest a little bit and lift the legs up. Keep the legs as straight as possible and lift from the inner thighs. Feel those back muscles working and then come on down. Come on up again. So this is such an important posture to start working the longissimus. So many of our back muscles are actually atrophying and then come on down. And when a muscle atrophies, it starts to pull in fat cells into the muscle, and that's not good. So we want to make sure that those muscles stay toned and also that their ability to contract and contract properly is always being cultivated. Lift up through the legs, lift up through the chest. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Very good. So now we're going to come and do our final back bend. And this is a back bend that you'll see a lot of yoga teachers teach, often referred to as bridge pose. But I'm going to teach it a little bit differently. One of the reasons why you probably don't like back bends, again, it comes back to that idea of stability. And instability can create so much fear with so many people, and rightly so. So what we want to do is do the opposite. We want to engender stability. If you keep stretching, you're always going to create more instability in your body. You're disconnecting the brain from the muscles. They lose their force output. That's not, by the way, fiction. That's actually science. A lot of studies are now showing that athletes lose strength when they are stretching. And they lose strength typically somewhere between, there's some studies that say 30 minutes, there's others that say 60, there's others that say 90. I could talk for an hour about why that is. And I would actually say that if you did that same study on people in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s, then sometimes you would find that that strength never returns. So we always want to make sure that we're not stretching and that we're activating, and bridge pose is one of the best poses to make sure that you're completely activating. Okay, so come on to your back. And once you're on your back, you're going to rest your feet underneath your knees, just sort of on the outsides of the hips. Now, this is a great posture to start activating the glutes. One of the reasons why you feel unstable is because your glutes are not working properly. I just know that they aren't, by the way. Just trust me on it. So, one of the ways that we want to get those glutes activated is just actually by engaging them. Squeeze them. Maybe lift your pelvis off the ground 1 inch, half an inch, and just press down into the heels for a second and just squeeze the glutes. Now, if you're not sure if you're squeezing them, just come down and touch them or tap them and say, squeeze there, little guys, and then relax down. They're probably not little, but that was just me injecting that. By the way, one of the things that you often find, it's a common joke actually among runners, is runners start to develop runner's butts. And one of the reasons is that a lot of them are running without activated glutes, so the glutes never actually properly form. By the way, because their glutes aren't working, they end up using other muscles that they shouldn't be using, or overusing other muscles they shouldn't be using, which is why a lot of runners end up with hip pain, knee pain especially, and ankle pain, and feet problems. So it all starts at the glutes. So much of it starts because of the glutes. So lift up again just a little bit, and maybe even a little bit more, not too much. And just really squeeze, squeeze. Now press down into the heels of the feet, lift the toes, and again, press down and squeeze a little bit more, and then come on down. So if you don't like back bends, guess what? You just did a back bend. Pretty cool, eh? You don't have to go and try and reach the wall like I was doing when you first came and saw me. You can just come onto your back and start to do this little exercise, and already you're going to start engendering a lot of stability. A lot of people are always saying, but Aaron, I want to go and stretch afterwards. Well, why do you need to stretch? Well, Aaron, I've got a lot of tight muscles. The body tightens up because muscles like the glutes are not doing their job properly. The brain sends a message to the other muscles, tighten up, tighten up, tighten up, because it's a protective mechanism in the body to stabilize it. So if we want to start getting rid of those tight muscles, we need to start activating the correct muscles. And in this case, we want to activate the glutes. Let's lift up again. Maybe come up a little bit higher, but squeezing those glutes. Let's start to bring the arms out to the sides or behind you, and then slowly come on down. Very nice. Squeeze the glutes. Start to press down into the heels of the feet. Lift up a little bit more. Squeeze. See if you can even lift a little bit more now. Press down into the heels of the feet. Squeeze, 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 and then slowly come on down. And then again, press down into the heels of the feet. Squeeze the glutes a little bit. And then slowly start to come on back up. Press down a little bit more. Squeeze a little bit more. Lift up a little bit more if you can. Squeeze them. You notice how much easier it is getting because your muscles are able to contract and contract properly. that was hard before probably slowly come on down because your muscles were not contracting. If you want to improve mobility in your body, improve muscle function, and the function of a muscle is to shorten, basically. So let's do it one more time just for fun. Really squeeze the glutes. Bring the arms out to the sides if they're not, or over your head. Squeeze them. Now lift up a little bit more, squeeze. 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 And lift up a little bit more. Oh, yes. I love it. Love it, I love it, I love it. Lift up again. Go for broke this time. And then come on down. So those are 3 really great back bends for beginners. But I'm also going to add that it's 3 great back bends for everybody. I'm not a beginner, and I do them all the time. I practice religiously what I teach you because I know that these postures are going to help those muscles to stay connected to my brain at a neurological level, that it's going to improve their ability to contract and contract properly, and that ability to contract and contract properly is going to keep me stable and, most importantly, pain-free, so I can go out and manifest and live my life purpose. So may it be for you. Happy practicing, guys.